don't ever take advice from those who are broke and unhappy people, because broke people are never going to be able to give you advice on how to actually be financially successful. But unhappy people are never going to actually tell you how to be successful in any means. Having money isn't just the one thing to strive for. Having financial success is not just it. You've got to be actually happy with yourself, looking yourself in the mirror. If you're not happy with the thing you're about to do for too many days in a row, I think Steve Jobs said, it's like, you should change that. Whatever you want to do in this world, go and do it. Whatever your dreams are, whatever your wildest visualizations are, it's your obligation to bring them to life. And every single one of you were born with a vision, with a dream, with a book to write, with a business to create, with a charity to, with a life to live, with your unique skill set. And it's your job to bring it to life.
Aside from my soul.
Hey there, inspired spirits. At the time of this recording, only 94% of you that are actually returning to watch a second or a third or a fourth video here on the Inspired Evolution podcast are actually subscribed. I can't tell you how much it genuinely helps everything we're trying to achieve with promoting positivity in the world through your subscription. Every time you hit subscribe, it helps us grow the platform. It lets guests that want to come onto the show know that, it is worth their time to take the time out to carve out a conversation like the ones that you're enjoying here on the Inspired Evolution podcast. My personal commitment to you is, as the show grows, more and more quality, more and more conversations, richer and richer things will flow around here. That is my absolute commitment to you, to be completely transparent as we grow. And when we finally get to that 100,000 subscriber mark, currently we do 2 episodes a week. I'm looking forward to getting us to about 3 episodes a week so we can really keep the juju going and flowing at an even greater level. And all of that is enabled by you taking the time to hit subscribe, hit that bell notification. So if you can, please take a moment, come on, take one quick sec, hit subscribe and hit that bell notification icon. It helps so much more than I can say. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Inspired Evolution. And we have with us today, inspiring our evolution, Morgan T. Nelson. Morgan, how are you there, brother?
Mate, I'm living the dream. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you, talk all things. I have a feeling that this episode's probably going to go a little bit different direction to where we usually go when I'm interviewed. So I'm super excited, man.
Oh man, it is such a pleasure to have you here. For those tuning in for the first time, let me quickly do the honors, even though it's going to be hard to believe when I share this. He's a bit of a prodigy. Can I say that out loud? In personal development entrepreneurship, he achieved financial freedom by the age of 23. In order to get there though, he actually transformed this entire turbulent past that he had into this future, which he's trailblazing now already. He's the host of the influential Dream Out Loud podcast, another incredibly, is it just smashing it in the Australian charts for podcasts and the personal development scene. Expert in NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, worked with people such as Tony Robbins, Rob Proctor there, incredible people. And inspirational speaker, mentor, dedicated to helping people with transformative success. Brother, it is such a pleasure to have you here. I wanted to start this episode a bit backwards, because you are young and you've achieved an incredible amount of success. And so, a question that I've asked in the past, and I was like, oh, you surely can't ask Morgan that. And I was like, okay, because I've said that to myself, I'm going to ask it. What advice would you give to your 19-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, it is interesting, and that's the question I ask at the end of my podcast, and nearly every single person will come on and say something similar, like, I can't change it because everything that happened perfectly. Like, everything is happening to us in our life is absolutely perfect, and so on one side, everything is perfect just how it is. It's I get that, but to give some practical sort of, what would I say? It would literally just be. First thing would be stop giving a shit what other people think of you a lot sooner. That would be the biggest thing, because that really was the thing that held me back literally till probably 25, 26 years old. It was very like one of the biggest things in front of my mind. I can't do that. I shouldn't do this. I've got to do this. I can't do this. Got to make sure this person's happy and all of these things. So it'd be to stop giving a shit what other people think of me a lot sooner. And the next one would probably be to actually take things a little bit more seriously, more sooner as well, at the same time as having fun. I think I let a lot of fun in the beginning literally just control everything. And as good as that was, I know now that I can still have a really great life, a lot of fun, while also taking things a little bit more seriously. So if I had took things a little bit more seriously and probably got into, it's stupid to say, but got into personal development sooner, things would have been a lot more different. I got into personal development when I was 21. So if I started when I was 18, 19, it would have been hectic.
What was that moment where you were in personal development, you got into personal development at 21, and then you recognized, oh, I'm not just here to learn, but I'm also here to teach? Because I remember that in my own, like, there was a moment in my own life where that sort of just, it clicked. And it was a gradual thing, but I'd love to hear where that happened for you. Yeah, do you remember? Was it a moment? Was it a build up of
Yeah,
things?
the
Or yeah,
first memory that just came to my mind was what was happening for me. Like I started personal development at 21. I started listening
mm.
to a CD of Jim Rohn. Every single day I'd get in the car to put on Jim Rohn's CDs. And the
Classic.
first thing
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he would say things to me like, you're some of the five people you surround yourself with. And I was like, what? You're telling me that you can just, I didn't know that that was a hack. One of the most profound things he said to me was, don't wish life was easier, wish you were better. And it started this obsession for wanting to better myself, to be bigger than my circumstance, to be bigger than my problems I had. Because everyone's got problems. Everyone's got problems. But it's what we do with the problems that we're faced really determines who we are.
Can you take us back to some of the problems that you had? Because you've had quite the, I don't want to use unorthodox path to coming into personal development. Can you, if it's respectful enough for me to ask, that is.
Of course, you can ask anything you want. Um, the things that happened in my life, I guess. Hang on, I'll come to that. But the question you asked before was the where it kind of began. I really think I started to have a little bit of early success in my first business. And I remember I was at a party and I was pretty drunk, and somebody came up to me and they were like, hey, I've got a question for you. And I was like, why are you coming up to me? Thinking, because they're like, oh, we saw you did this latest success this month and blah, blah, blah. I have a question for you. And I gave her the answer. And as I was giving her the answer, I just saw the look on her face of like this utter, oh my God, I'm so grateful for that. And she's like, wow, that's so amazing. And I think I got that learning in there just then. I was like, that felt really great to be able to hand something down for free, something that I learned that helped me and be able to transfer that information. That was really cool because I think if someone did that for me at an earlier age, things could have been differently. It could have been a lot different. But also, having said that, the fact that no one did that for me is why I'm doing the things I do right now as well. So everything is absolutely perfect. But you know, how I kind of grew up was the first person I ever asked for advice around life and success was this guy that I used to go to the gym with. I was doing Muay Thai when I was 16 years old. And one of the other guys in the gym, he was in his 50s and he was retired. And I thought that was pretty badass, be retired in your 50s. So I go up to him one day, I say, what do you do? He's like, I'm retired. I said, that's amazing. So what do you do every single day? He's like, sometimes I surf, sometimes I go on the jet ski, sometimes I do whatever, but sometimes I also work because I love it. I said, are you a millionaire? And he goes, yeah. I said, dude, can you please, what advice do you have for me? What advice do you have? Can you help me? And you know what he said? He goes, why would I give you any advice when I had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars learning it myself? You need to get out there and do it yourself as well. And I was like, well, you know, that wasn't really the answer I was looking for. Like a 16-year-old
It's a
coming up
bit
to you,
brutal, isn't it?
you know what I mean? But that guy taught me that having money isn't just the one thing to strive for. Having financial success is not just it. You've got to be actually happy with yourself. You've got to be rich and happy. My mentor said to me, he's like, don't ever take advice from those who are broke and unhappy people. And I love that he says broke and unhappy because broke people are never going to be able to give you advice on how to actually be financially successful. But unhappy people are never going to actually tell you how to be successful in any means. Not going to tell you how to get wealth, great relationships, a great body, nothing because they're so miserable on the inside. So just don't ever take advice from these people. But that was a bit of the environment, I guess. Coming to think of it as I'm saying it right now, that could be one of the things that makes me so passionate to want to help people, especially when I see a young person. Like I just sponsored a child in Bali. She's 13 years old, and I gave her my WhatsApp number. I said, you can message me anytime you need advice, mentorship. Like think of me as your older brother. I got you, you know. And the feeling to be able to do that is just amazing, you know. And so I think it probably came from because it didn't come easy for me growing up, and that's usually how things happen, right? It's the other end of the pendulum. But getting into personal development was interesting for me. Like I had a background of, I was a carpenter. I was I followed the dream that I thought I should do. I wanted to become a qualified carpenter. I wanted to do all this, and throughout that journey, led me down working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Surrounded myself with people that were alcoholics, drug addicts, negative, violent. So what did I become? Alcoholic, drug addict, negative, violent, toxic. It was my whole life at 19 years old, down to the point of trying to take my own life, thinking that it was literally going to be worse if I stayed here than it would be to leave. And in that state, I actually asked myself the question, how was I so happy at one point in my life? And then now I'm here trying to do this. And the answer that came to me was, I was surrounded by the wrong people. The environment changed. The only thing that changed my life was the environment in which I was in. So I quit my job. I came back down to the Gold Coast and I made the decision to actually start to seek out environments, seek out people that had a good quality of life, seek out people that were happy, that were rich, that actually had goals. And when you start to put something into what I'm aware of now as your reticular activating system, you put into our awareness and our brain starts to pick things up. And I get reconnected with a mate of mine who introduced me to my first business at 21, and it was a network marketing business. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was a cult, actually thought it was a scam. I thought it was all this shit. And he said to me, he's like, bro, just remember that you're broke. He's like, come and check it out. And I was like, that's a true point you got there, man. That's a true point. And I never forget that night was the first night where I referred to seeing a life of color. See, I was living in a world of black and white. It's the only thing I knew. I grew up, that's black, that's white. There's nothing in between. Don't question anything else.
What does that mean to you, seeing life in color?
Like everything was just so normal, like mediocre. And then one day I climbed the fence and I see a world where I didn't know how to actually articulate it in the beginning. I was like, what is this? It's so vibrant. It's so sexy. It's so like, what's happening over here? I started seeing people that were happy, that were rich, they were doing all the things that society tells you can't really get. Only the famous celebrity people can have. And I saw these average people in their 20s making millions of dollars, traveling the world, retiring their parents, having fun, firing their boss, doing all this stuff. And it's like I literally drank the Kool-Aid. I saw what was actually possible in my life. And ever since that night, ever since that day, I felt like I had an actual obligation to not only bring it to life, but to also inspire other people, to show them that, hey, this is actually possible for you as well. I think everyone's born with the potential of a colorful life, and then they go through the conveyor belt of life, society, school systems, and that sort of dims it in us. It kills our creativity, it kills our dreams, it kills our passions. Um, and I even had this conversation with Les Brown. I said to Les, do you really think that everybody can live their dream life? And he's like, that's why you're here. That's why you're here, Morgan. He goes, there's a 400 trillion chances to one of you being born. And to think that you're here by accident is just insane. He goes, every single one of you were born with a vision, with a dream, with a book to write, with a business to create, with a charity, with a life to live, with your unique skill set. And it's your job to bring it to life. But 95, 99% of people will copy the people next to them, the people who are broke, the people who are unhappy, the people that gave up on their dreams, and say, well, maybe I should also do the same. Because psychologically, it's more dangerous for us if we're not with the clan. If we go and pursue what we believe is right, our dream, our goal, but everyone else around us, our environment isn't doing that, it's been proven that we will give up on the thing we know is true so we can stay in the clan, so we can stay in the pack, because that's where we're most safe and guarded. It's crazy. So the environment, I started to learn about all this stuff, but my friend gave me a CD, Jim Rohn, and man, I'd started a rabbit hole of what's been now 9 years around the world, working with some of the best people in the world when it comes to this.
It's really trippy as well when you start thinking about those ripples, like when someone hands you a CD and it really just, the effect that it causes in your life, and then you start to contemplate the number of people that potentially, these offerings that you've put out into the world then subsequently start to ripple into, and then those ripples and the ripples and the ripples and the butterfly effect that carries on. It's a total like trip. And I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you today is a bit more spiritual in its nature because of, yeah, like you've gone through, and well, even just the way you described it, I finally saw life, like I saw so much color. I've heard people through my past with coaching, people with mental health challenges, when they finally break through or come back, they say, "Oh, everything was in black and white. It looked like I was looking at everything in grey or in grayscale," and then I finally saw in color again. Um, and I imagine, as you're going through, like recognizing you're in a toxic environment, like one of the things I've learned about change through all my coaching is people generally, I'm going to say always, but obviously try not to be absolutist, um, tend to change when the pain of staying the same. And I think this is old mate Tony Robbins. He goes, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, that's when you actually go ahead and transform. So I'm trying to visualize, like, for yourself, yeah, at some point life would have been happening to you, and then you started realizing life could happen on your own terms. Um, it was perfect. I've heard you say that a few times in this podcast now. You were always meant to go through the challenges that you had. Is that your perspective?
Yeah, I truly believe this. I often use this as an example in my seminars. I'll say, put up your hand if you've ever had something that completely just fucked up happen in your life. And when it happened, you wish it never happened. When it was happening to you, like, oh my God, I wouldn't wish this upon my. Everyone's hands go up. Everyone's got something, an event, some crazy shit. Everyone, like, when you're in this work long enough, you start to realize like how wild people's experiences really are. Because a lot of people go through a lot of crazy things. And then I say, okay, put down your hands. Now put up your hand. If knowing what you know right now, you'd still go back and wish that you could erase that time. No one's hands go up. I said, isn't that crazy? And let me just take a guess. Tell me if I'm wrong here. The reason you would not want to go back and change it is because that very thing made you exactly who you are right now. Therefore, the thing that you thought was so imperfect has made you so perfect right now. That's the paradox of trauma. That's the paradox of life. Everything happening to you or for you or happening right now in this moment is actually just 100% perfectly imperfect, whether it's good, bad, right, or wrong, whatever. In fact, a spiritual mentor said to me one time when I asked him this, I said, is this good or bad? He says, you're asking the wrong question. He says, you got to stop asking, is this good or is this bad? It is not either. If you're asking if it's good or if it's bad, you're still judging you're being righteous. I'm like, fuck, that's good. That's good, right?
That is
Nothing's good or bad.
profound.
If we're looking at something and we're saying that's good, that's wrong, that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong, we're projecting judgment onto that thing based off what we think it should be. That's why I look at a lot of things in my life now, like objectively, and people are like, what do you think of that? I said, well, my answer, you're probably not really going to like my answer, because to someone who's not really thinking from the perception in which I'm thinking, you'll think that I may be an asshole. And if you think that, then that's also interesting. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is, you know. But back what you were saying with the pain is 100% correct. There's a story of this little boy walking down the road, and the little boy, he hears off in the distance this really loud noise, like a howl, like a roar, 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 roar. And he's like, what is going on? What is that noise? He walks a little bit further, and the noise gets louder. It's like, roar, 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 roar. He's like, what is this? And he hears it coming from the distance up near this old guy's house. And he walks right up to the porch, says to the old man, what is this noise coming from your house? And he's like, let me show you. They walk around to the back, and he sees in the backyard this dog sitting in the corner, sitting down, looking all sad, crying and howling. And now it's loud. It's like, roar, 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 roar. And the little boy says to the old man, he says, what is wrong with your dog? And he says, well, you see, he's sitting on a nail. And the little boy's like, then why doesn't he just get off the nail? And the old man says, because it doesn't hurt enough for him yet. And if you think like that's the majority of people, the majority of people are walking around a life that is just good. They're not happy with it. They're not enthralled with it, but it's not bad, especially in Australia. You greet the average Aussie. What do they say? "Hey, go on, mate." They'll say, "Yeah, not too bad."
Not bad.
Well, hey, if you're not bad, then that must be good. If
Yeah,
you're not
but
bad, then you're good. And in
it's not exactly
Australia as
great
well,
though,
if
is it?
you're
It's
doing
not
great,
exactly great.
if
Yeah.
you're doing great, exactly. But if you're doing outstanding, people think that's weird. Well, what's so good about your life? Why are you outstanding? Well, can't I just be fucking happy? Can't I just have goals that I'm crushing? I'm working on life, right? It's an interesting thing. So people will actually put themselves, I call it a level 7 out of 10. 7 is a good life. 7's a good life. It doesn't suck enough for them to get off the nail yet and actually take their life seriously and do something about it. But it sucks enough for them to want to complain about it. And they go, "Well, do you want to change it?" Nah, because the perceived pain of getting off the nail and actually doing the work is more painful than to just sit on the nail. So let's sit on the nail. So until the pain of actually getting off the nail outweighs the pain of staying on the nail, everybody will stay exactly where we are.
Mm. It does sound, when I share, yeah, I've got to, when I share my story from stage, the I always find myself expressing gratitude for the career misalignment that I had, project management, building high-rise towers, whatever, um, because the hours were really long. It was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 6 days of the week as a bare minimum, right? And there was always overtime or whatever. And I just clearly remember just how painful it really was. And I joke when I share it from stage, which is like, oh, I just had my midlife crisis earlier than everybody else, not because I'm special, but just because I put in the same amount of hours that everybody put in before the age of like 45 by the age of 30. And hence I just transformed earlier. And this comes back to that point of, yeah, the pain and the transformation. Now, and that was actually the birthplace of the Inspired Evolution, because not too dissimilar to yourself, I had that realization that I looked around, there's all these incredible people doing incredible things, and it wasn't so much about the financial abundance, which it was. It was more, I was enamored by the fact that these people could be financially abundant, but it was more so the fact that they could be financially abundant, having the positive impact that they were having as well. You know, there were coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, people such as yourself doing incredibly remarkable things, and then also building a life around those things in support and in service to others. Dream out loud. What does that mean to you? And when did the name sort of start to like really precipitate that, hey, this is really what is at the heart of Morgan Nelson?
Yeah, this is a funny story. So I'm 17 years old. I'm 17 years old, and my whole philosophy of life is the combination of live as if you'll die tomorrow, but plan as if you'll live forever. And it's always been like a conflict that I am aware of that I'm actually happy having, because I live my life like that. It's like live your life so full where like there's no time to waste. And in my opinion, like you really should not be spending, like, you know, if you're waking up, looking yourself in the mirror and you're not happy with the thing that you're about to do, if you're not happy with the thing you're about to do for too many days in a row, I think Steve Jobs said it's like you should change that. And I've always had that philosophy. I'm like, I never want to do anything that I really don't like for too long, because I focus on living a great life. So when I was 17 years old, a few friends around me started to get tattoos and do all this stuff. And I had a fake ID. Okay, I had a fake ID. So I wanted to go and get a tattoo on my chest. And I was thinking, I was like, what do I want to get it? What do I want it to say? And I was thinking about all these things, and I was going to get like a Such Is Life, like a Ned Kelly thing. I was like, I like Ned Kelly, right? I'm Australian. So glad I didn't. And then I was actually thinking, and the idea started to come out. It's like live out loud, dream out loud. Dream out loud came, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. So I told mum. I said, Mum, I'm gonna get a tattoo. And she goes, No, you're not. I said, Yeah, I am. She goes, If you do not come back to this house. I said, Yeah. So I went and did it. I went and got a tattoo on my chest. It says across here, it says dream out loud on my chest. I come home, I show mum, and she first slaps it, you little shit. And she's like, It actually looks really nice. I like it. And then it's funny. So it started from 17 years old, man. And then I kind of just had that as like a philosophy. It's like, whatever you want to do in this world, go and do it. Whatever your dreams are, whatever your wildest visualizations are, whatever whatever ideas, whatever visions and pictures you have in your mind, I honestly believe it's your obligation to bring them to life and to leave something here and spend, like, life is a game. Life is a game. I just want to make sure that when I get to the finish line, I'm absolutely exhausted and I'm puffed and I'm like, I couldn't have given another thing. And then when I started to do my podcast and build my business, and I started to build this community of people that were also like me, I go, what should I call the community? I don't know, the Dream Out Loud family. So I started with my first business. Then when I started my podcast, it was just that. It's like, what should I call the podcast? Well, it's Dream Out Loud. It's inspiring people. It's teaching people skill set and the mindset to literally create their own dream life. Because what I realize is a lot of people have the dream. A lot of people do have an incredible life they want to create. And then they're usually stuck by either the people around them, not knowing how to do it, and not believing that they actually can. So I really focus on helping people do all those things, and that's what it means. That's where it came. I've barely shared that. Sometimes people will see the tattoo. Does that say "Dream Out Loud"? Yeah, it does. I had it since I was 17.
Sorry, I was like being hella Aussie, and I was like, maybe he talks to himself in his sleep. When you said it's a funny story, I'm glad it went the way that it did. And the interesting thing in there that I love the most about Dream Out Loud as well is, well, obviously I'm biased because I've got something called the Inspired Evolution, but there's a similar frequency in there, right? Like you and I, we don't have to be masters, right? Obviously we're on a path of self-mastery, but as you're dreaming out loud, it gives you permission to be messy because dreams are messy, right? As you're like, they don't necessarily have to make sense. With the Inspired Evolution, people often, have left me comments on the YouTube videos and going, hey, like you could have done this better or you could have done that better. I'm like, thanks heaps for the feedback. Like I'm inspired and I'm evolving just as you are, like we're all in this together. And I love that about Dream Out Loud as well, because it gives us permission, once again, to, like you said before, like we're exactly perfect where we are, but it also gives us permission to be imperfect and show up, right?
100%. Everything is continually evolving. Everything is continually evolving. The things that I say today on this podcast, I might even disagree with in 6 months. Because from the perspective I have now, like everyone's doing the best they can with all the information that they have. And sometimes people, even in my mentorship community, they're like, I say, why'd you do it like that? And they said, you told me to do that. Like last time we talked, I said, did I? Oh, well, I changed my mind now. From this perspective now, with the information I know now, I would do it like this then, because we're continually evolving. And even so, like, like a big thing I'll always bring back to is our consciousness levels in which we operate from. Every single one of us, we're 7 levels of consciousness. And we're operating from every single one of these at different times, depending on the amount of work we've done, depending on the trauma that we've had, depending on the things that we've worked through. But it's also going to depend on, for what purpose am I actually making this decision? For what purpose am I doing this thing? So if you had have asked me back when I was 23, Morgan, why are you building your business? It would probably be so I could break out and not have a job anymore. I don't want a job. I want to have freedom. Right? That's what it would be. Right? So Morgan, why are you doing the things you're doing? I would do things differently back then because I didn't want to have a job. I want to have freedom. I didn't want to have anyone tell me what to do. Then if you ask me at 26, Morgan, why are you doing the podcast, the community? Why are you doing all this? Well, because I want to help more people. I want to create an amazing community. I want to serve. I want to do these things. Now people ask me, Morgan, why are you doing the things you're doing? Well, because we're trying to build a multiple 8-figure business here. We're trying to build a multiple 8-figure impact, right? We're trying to create a massive community for entrepreneurs in the world to literally learn the skill set and mindset to create their dream life. You see, it's continually evolved. So the reason behind why I do the things I do is going to be different based off my perspective that day. The things I know that day. I might have a conversation with you. You might teach me something, and I go, "Oh my God, actually, that's so right." When Amrit said that, it changed my perspective. Now I believe something different. But 100%, it is going to be messy. And my favorite philosophy, my favorite saying is ready, fire, aim. Because the very thing that stops so many people from doing the thing they want to do is procrastination. Oh, it's not right yet. I'll do it when I have this. I'll do it when I have that. And it kills more dreams. That kills more dreams than anything else. So the whole ready, fire, aim, take action, see what happens, pick up the pile of shit that you probably just did, like oh, this didn't work. Cool. Now you just found another way that it didn't work, then you can find more ways where it can work. It's a continual work in progress. It's a continual failing forward process. But instead of looking at it with I just failed, we need to look at it with I just found another way that it didn't work, and I just got more feedback to how to make it better next time.
I wanted to tune in around the 7 levels of consciousness because, yeah, level 1 being survival consciousness, level 2 being our tribal ancestral connections, level 3 being aggression and power. Level 4 kind of caught me off guard a little bit. It was, you called it the awakening of like our guilt and righteousness. And, I've yeah, it's interesting. The word guilt got me a little bit, caused me pause to reflect for a sec. Can you expand on that in level 4, like the relationship that we have towards guilt, and how that can be a transformative force? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it is interesting. So this having said that, that's if we want to actually transform our consciousness. Because I know people that live a life of in level 2 and level 3, and they enjoy it there, and they don't want to continually grow. So assuming that the people listening to this podcast are like, I want to transform, I want to ascend my consciousness, I want to operate from a higher frequency, then this is for them. And it's an interesting thing because life is filled with paradox. There's nothing ever that is a continual, this is just the way, because it might be the way for a period of your life, and then it might be the complete other thing for the next period of your life. For example, I went through a period of my life going, I need to work my ass off all the time. Then I went through another period of my life where I'm like, I need to do not much for a long time and just chill and just be and relax. So everything's going to be continually pendulum swing. So in the values level 3, this is a lot of aggression. The thing here, they avoid shame here. They'll do anything to avoid shame. So it's a lot of significance driven. I'm the man. I'm the one in charge. I'm gonna get what I want here. I'm gonna be aggressive. I'm gonna control the system. I want power. I'm gonna do anything to avoid being embarrassed. Okay, it's very narcissistic energy here. But the funny thing is, a lot of people go through their life wanting to avoid feeling guilt. True. But if you've never ever experienced guilt yet, you're still operating from a lower level of consciousness below level 4, because guilt can only be actually brought in on values level 4. So in values level 4, this is when people actually start to realize, wow, here's all the things I did in my life, the things I said to my mom, my dad, and I screwed these people over and I did these things. Oh my God, I'm a bad person. Because in 4, it's about good and bad, right and wrong. Where 3, it's not that yet. It's not like this is not good or bad. It's just this just is life. Life is a war zone in 3. 2 is like life is just life, and we are connected to our spirit being and our ancestors and our community. That's 2. So 4 is like, oh my God, I can't believe I did all these things. I was such a, a lot of women will transition into 4 sooner in life. This is why there's more men in jail, because we'll transition later. Because when we're in our early 20s, we're still doing things against the law, breaking the law, doing bad things, because we haven't really understood yet the consciousness level of being like, hey, you shouldn't do that, because if you do, you get punished. Like, we're kind of aware of it, but we don't care. But a lot of women will go through that in their teenage years. And every time I talk to a woman, I said, do you remember when you were a little shit to your parents? When you were like, fuck you, mom, fuck you, dad, and you went out with the boy? And they were like, yeah, that was you being that attitude, right? And guys will go through it a little bit later. The masculine energy will move through it a little bit later in life. But 4 is massively about actually realizing levels of guilt, which is interesting because sometimes I've coached people that have been in 3, and I've actually brought them into feeling guilt. Like, I can't believe you do that. You piece of shit. And people be like, why are you saying that? Because it's for them to actually start to realize that the things they've done in the past have caused significant hurt to other people. Them to realize that and to actually experience guilt is bringing them into a higher level of consciousness, because now this is a level that they can actually experience a feeling called guilt where before they couldn't. And if we look at even the vibration scale, the lowest is shame and guilt, right? Shame is the one they're trying to avoid in 3. So even 1 up is guilt.
Progress,
Still
even
negative,
though it's
sure. But it's a
still
transition.
progress. Yeah,
It's progress. It's progress, right? But then the problem here is 4s will be controlled by fear and guilt. Fear and guilt. This is our society. Australia massively is a level 4 society. And all we need to do is look through everything that happened during the pandemic. Everything is being controlled by fear and guilt. Do this. If you don't do this, you can't leave. But if you don't do this, then you can't go to your friends' weddings and funerals. Then you feel like a guilty person, right? Not saying this is exactly the angle they're going with. Who knows, perhaps. But
it is the
it's
underlying
a lot of
subtext
people are
in many
controlled
ways.
by
Yeah.
these emotions. 100%. But it's knowing how to actually control people. Then if we transition into a level 5, it's when the level 5 actually realizes they so to go into 4, you need to actually experience guilt. To move into 5, you need to let go of guilt. See, it's like it's the pendulum swinging. You need to get it, experience it, complete it, do your healing, do the processing, and be like, I realize my ways, I need to get the learnings. Transition into a state of going, guilt it's not useful for me. Guilt is not useful. This is a useless emotion because all it does is hold me back. I can understand my rights and wrongs and do things that are good and useful, and no longer hold the feelings of being like I'm not enough. Because guilt is the underlying belief of that is I'm still not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. We can let go of this and actually transition into higher level of consciousness again, level 5. This is about really looking at the world and going, how can I really capitalize on things? How can I step into my greatness? How can I learn more about myself, become a better person, tap into my highest potential and create massive success and not feel bad about it? That's 5. And then funny again, 5 needs to get massive acceptance. Then they move into 6, which is stereotypically 6 is very spiritual, and they slow down and they're like, money is not everything. Money isn't everything anymore. I'm gonna go vegan. I want to do yoga. I'm gonna move into, I'm moving to Bali, and I want to save the planet. Right? That's what that is, because they're like, oh my god, we've the people before us, and if we think about it, it's just a higher level of conscious. Because up until here, people don't really contemplate the damage they're doing to the environment, to the universe, to the planet, to humanity. And here is a very big level of I want to get back in the community. I want to help people. I want to impact people. Can't you see that? Like, so if we ask the question, why are you doing what you're doing? A level 3 will say, because I want to win. A level 4 will say, because it's the right thing to do. A level 5 will say, because it's a really good opportunity. A level 6 will say, because we can all be collective and we can make a massive impact here. And level 7 is going all the way through his conscious level, almost to a point where it's like nothing is anything. And I'm actually quite confused here. There's no such thing as a level 1, a level 2, and a level 5 and whatever. And here they live in the world of paradoxes. They live in the world of, well, it can be good and it can be bad. And if good is bad and evil is nothing is anything and things are just happening and I'm just this space of energy moving through Earth, trying to enjoy the process. It's an interesting, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I'm hearing there's a lot of isness in level 7. Yeah, and it's interesting
A lot of isness.
I'm feeling into also what you mentioned earlier. Thank you so much for guiding us through the different levels and discussing them as well. And I think the interesting journey that we all go on as we transform and evolve. And I'm with you there. I do think generally women's life cycles are, a bit more accelerated than I think I don't want to say this, but maybe I can because I'm a bloke. We're a bit more hard headed, so we're a bit slower on the uptake, a bit slower to transform. But the interesting piece there I find is, that, and I found this quite hard when I found other bodies of work which were discussing levels of consciousness with me. And I was like, you're either here, or you're here, or you're here, or you're here. And it was just like, sounds very like absolutist and also very stuck, like you've transcended levels. And it was like, this didn't feel very spiritual because it's like levels of spirituality. Whereas I've also found my own way with, like, some days I'm 3, some days I'm 5, and it just depends. And in some, like, it's not even just the day. Sometimes it's in each interaction, different people, I react different ways, and and I'm just learning who I am through the reflection in the mirror of all of that. And I really love the way you articulated that initially, is like, where, the levels sort of appear to us depending on where we're at in any given moment as well, right?
Yeah, the environment we're in massively dictates the value systems. It'll bring out the things in us. The environment will eventually also shape the things that are important to us, which are our values, all these sorts of things. But the values systems in itself definitely does come down to, the way I've sort of, we can put it, is terms of vibration. The more work we sort of do on ourselves, we remove lower levels of negative emotions, where we can start to do work on our anger, sadness, hurt, fear, guilt, shame. All these sorts of things are going to help us actually vibrate at a higher level. The frequencies that we're on is the things that we'll frequently see. Our frequency is at what we frequently see in our universe, in our reality, in our life. But you were cutting out a little bit there before, but I think what you're talking about is like what I see a bit is people in the spiritual space as well. They think they operate in level 6 because they're like, well, I'm spiritual. I have my crystals. I'm aware of my chakras. I yoga. I meditate and stuff like this. But then they go, I'm a vegan, and if you're not a vegan, then you're an asshole. You're the problem here. And what starts to happen is this is level 6. Sixes are actually very judgmental. They're very like, whoa, you should be like me. You should be perfect like me. But then, and it's just a 6 being a 6. That's just the consciousness level. It's the interesting thing that we're always continually evolving. And the people that are very strong like that, strong in their ways of righteousness and judgment, just still haven't done the work on the things that are inside of them that they still judge themselves for. Maybe when they used to be a meat eater, or when they used to do bad things, or whatever, they'd be like, oh, it's just other people's projections. So we can only ever be triggered or judge other people or see wrong in other people of which exists inside of us still. Things of us that we haven't healed yet or come to acceptance with. But then it can also be people that are not completely transitioned properly. So there might be 6 and 4. These people are funny because remember, 4 is all about rules. 4 is all about rules, good, bad, right, wrong. And 6 is kind of about no rules, free flowing spirituality, just release attachment. But a 6 and 4, these are the people who are like, oh my God, it's a full moon. I have to meditate extra long tonight now. Or they're like, oh my God, you're a Gemini? Oh my God, that means this. And they have rules around their spiritual practices. And this is when I laugh. I like to take the piss out of spiritual people, even though like I'm quite freaking spiritual myself, because it's like some people like this and like, I'm super spiritual. I have all my practices. Like I remember one day I sat down with one of my friends who's like very spiritual, very tapped. And she sat and worked with I forget her name, one of the massive gurus in India. Like she's done the work, right? And she's full on vegan until the cows come home, right? And one day we're out together. I say, what do you want to get for dinner? I said, I'm gonna get a steak. She goes, you know what? I'm gonna get a steak too. I said, hang on a second. We're halfway through eating our meal. I said, hang on a second. Aren't you fucking vegan? And she's like, yeah, I am, but I also just wanted a steak today. Like, see, that's someone who's actually very embodied with the conscious level of that high to go, I understand that I do my best. I understand the repercussions of having on this planet, sure. And also, this is what I'm choosing right now as well. And there's no good, there's no bad. It just is because I'm not judging. See the interesting thing? It's an interesting world. It's all about continual evolvement, continual evolution, the inspired evolution.
Yeah, it really is a trip as well, and seeing what hazards lie on the way. One of the interesting pieces I've heard you say frequently is this reference to environment, and I love. I'm just going to shine a light back on. Your frequency is what you'll see frequently, and cultivating that sense of environment. So we've discussed that we're the average of the 5 people we spend our time with, but I can tell from having followed your work online that there's a whole journey around healing and working on ourselves that's present there. Calibrating our vibration and organizing our environment around us beyond just the people that we're around. What does environment mean to you beyond the people that you're around? Yeah. What else is in there, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, so I believe we've got two types of environment. We've got our external environment and we have our internal environment. And how I explain this to people is, the first one is the external environment is super simple. The people you spend the most time with. How do you get information through your 5 senses? What do you consume on a day-to-day basis? The things you listen to, the things you watch, the things you touch. where you live, the people you speak to, all these sorts of things. That makes up our physical external environment, because the brain can only process information that comes through our five senses. Okay, but then through the five senses is going to come through and create an image and a focal point in our internal environment. So there's three things. There's three things that make up our internal environment, and this is the paradox. I believe the external environment will dictate the internal environment. What you externally see in your life is what you'll internally see also inside of you. However, you can also change your internal environment, which will then change your external environment. Because our internal environment is the makeup of three things, to keep it simple. The first one is the things that we focus on continually, the things that we feed into our soul. So if we're focusing on all the bad things we've had in our life, if we're focusing on all the things that aren't working for us, it's going to create an emotion. It's going to create a focal point of things that aren't what we want, because our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. Perfect example, we watched a movie the other night and it was highly recommended, but it was like one of those true stories of like a terrorist attack. And really good movie, but horrible to watch. And I could not sit in my own skin. I was getting up. I was like, I can't watch this, but I need to finish it, because it was so real, where my nervous system was reacting like it was freaking scared. My nervous system was like, I literally feel like someone's about to kill me. And that is like, our unconscious mind doesn't know that it's actually fake. It's a movie. Our unconscious mind sees it and thinks, shit, someone's trying to kill me. React. So the things we feed it, the things we focus on, we feel. The things we feel will then take certain action. The actions we take will get the results. So things we focus on is literally one of the biggest things going to make up our internal environment. The second thing is our language, the things that we say to ourselves. So if we live in a world, if we live in a life where we're saying negative things to ourselves, like, I can't do this, I'm stupid, I'm not smart, or even worse, we judge other people and we say negative things about other people. Oh, look at that person, he's a bloody idiot. Yeah, he shouldn't do this, yada, yada, yada. Because the unconscious mind doesn't know who you're actually speaking to, so it assumes you're speaking to itself. So if we're like judging other people and saying negative things, you might as well be saying it directly to yourself. And we all know the unconscious mind then is going to be like, oh my God, okay, you are stupid, you can't do this. And it's going to start to create a low level self-esteem. The third thing is our physiology. What we actually do with our bodies, what we do with our breathing patterns, what we do with like how we actually move our bodies, all these sorts of things. Like, so if we're going to sit around and we're just going to be lazy and we're going to, hold our head down, chances are you're going to start to feel like crap very soon. If you walk around and you actually have a better posture and you focus on your breathing, do more nasal breathing, people doing breath work these days is amazing. Meditation, all these sorts of things like that, that changes your physiology. It's changed our physiology. When we change our physiology, it's going to change the neurons in our brain. It's also going to change our biochemistry in our body. It's going to increase. If we can do things like regulate our nervous system. Like, I'm a skydiver, okay? So I know how to use my breath while I'm 15,000 feet in the sky to regulate my nervous system before I jump out of the airplane, because I want to make sure that when I jump out, I'm calm and I'm making the right decisions. And I know how to do that because through certain breathing patterns, we can lower our cortisol levels. We get less cortisol in our bodies. We can think clearer. Okay. So all these sorts of things. So we got the focus, the language, and the physiology. These three things all make up our internal environment, the state that we are in, the emotional state we're in. We can choose to be in a state of confidence, a state of peace, and also we can choose to be in a state of anger and sadness and depression, anxiety. I've been working with, I very, very, very rarely take on one-on-one clients. I worked with someone right now one-on-one because I saw the things she was going through in her life. And I said, if you want to do one-on-one, let's freaking do it, because I can help you with this stuff. And her whole life was absolutely riddled with anxiety, mass anxiety, could barely leave the house. I said, give me a couple of weeks and we'll destroy this. She messaged me the other day and she's like, I actually can't, like, it's so weird living in a world where I feel happy. I'm like, why is that weird? And she's like, I don't have any anxiety anymore. Because it's all about massively changing these things inside of our brain. Changing the things that unconsciously we focus on daily without being aware of it, changing what we're doing in our physiology, but then changing the language that we're saying to ourselves on a day-to-day basis. We have 65,000 thoughts a day. 95 to 98% of them are redundant and the same ones you had yesterday. So unless you're living in the life right now that you're absolutely happy with, chances are if you start to change your thoughts, you'd probably start to change your results as well. So a lot of the thoughts we all have are negative. So when we get into the world of personal development, it's not even so much about actually learning more. It's actually more so about unlearning all the things that we've learned for our entire life. That is what makes up our internal environment. So if you can really master this, that in itself will actually start to change your external environment. And I say this to people, it's like you getting a boiling pot of water, and if you put an egg in the boiling pot of water, what does it do? Eventually it's like, it gets all hard. You can't hurt me. I'm going to get all solid. And then you take it out, it stays hard forever. But if you take a potato, you put a potato in the same boiling pot of water, what does it do? After a while, it's like, oh my God. And it gets all mushy and it gets squished and it turns into mashed potato. But if you get a teaspoon of coffee and you put a teaspoon of coffee into the water, the coffee will affect all of the water and it will transform the own external environment. So in the beginning, to really create transformation in our life, it's about quickly changing your external environment because that is going to make you feel better. You got to focus on different things. But eventually, it swings back to the other side of the pendulum and you can master the internal brain. You'll then absolutely ripple out to every single thing you do. And your external environment will be an impact, will be the effect of every single thing that's happening internally as well.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, focus, language, physiology. I'm curious because, yeah, I guess for yourself, it still feels like, you've achieved so much, but you're still feels like you're just getting started in some ways. If I can be so bold and so rude, if that is rude, pardon me. How do you continue to continually shift your internal environment? What are some of the, yeah, is it mentors? How do you go about keeping yourself growing and inspired and evolving, bro?
Yeah. The best thing I do is I've got to continually find a new circle that's doing better than me. Like, I'm very thankful now. Well, I just ran a day with my business partner. We called it a millionaire immersion. So me and him, we did a VIP day with a few clients. And somebody asked me that as well. They're like, what are you investing into right now? And I'm like, well, I'm in a mastermind and I'm about to join another mastermind because the guy I'm about to join with, he he owns over 100 companies and he's just a beast entrepreneur. I want to learn from this guy. And I have a feeling that when I surround myself with him and his people, I'm gonna realize, oh my God, I'm playing small again. Same as what I did when I was telling you about the podcast, talking with Chris Williamson and Stephen Bale. I'm like, wow, I'm playing small. I thought I had a good podcast. Nothing compared to these guys. So continually getting myself around people that are just so much further ahead of me. But I'm not hard on myself about it. Sometimes people will get themselves in communities like that and be like, oh, but it makes me feel stupid. That's your ego talking. Because you would felt more comfortable being in a room where you were the smartest and richest. You're not going to grow there. So I always try to put myself in situations where I'm the dumbest and the poorest in the room. That's my goal. Helps me expand. And then also, thankfully, because I've been doing it for such a long time, that's what I said to one of our clients the other day. I said, honestly, this guy sitting right here, like you guys have invested to spend a day with me and him. I'm luckily now, because I've done this for so long, that my circle are people that people spend thousands and thousands of dollars with to hang out with. And I get to be able to call them because they're my friends. I get to do podcasts with them. I get to go play golf with them. So my friend group now is like literally we all keep each other accountable. We all raise the bar for each other. And it's a bit competitive as well. We talk amongst the boys and fuck, you just did that? Damn. Gives us a kick up the ass. Like, so the environment comes back every single time. But the best thing, you're either going to pay the environment around you, you're either going to pay with lost opportunity by being in the wrong environment, or you're going to pay to be in the right environment through either your energy or money. So you've got to find a really good way to exchange energy and exchange value somehow to get into a really great group of community. But the best way, pay for it. Pay to play. Go and join a mastermind. Join a mastermind. Get out, going to get in a community with other people that are also willing. I'm flying to Sydney tomorrow and I'm going to an event that Richard Branson's attending. and tickets were like $100 to attend. Or you could get a front row one for $500. I got the $500 one because I'm like, I want to get that ticket just so I can network with the other people who are also willing to pay that money. Because I know the best way to get access to the people that are thinking bigger, pay to get into those communities.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Man, I wanted to start to wrap things up a little bit by asking all of this internal work, external work, and the levels of consciousness you've described to us. Can you just highlight how important the individual work for yourself as a leader is for everything that your businesses externally achieve, and the symbiosis between the two? Yeah.
Well, like it's I really think if you're not growing, you're dying. Like we're exactly like trees, and your external world is a direct reflection to our internal world. So I have a goal to continually keep improving my external world. I'm not where I want to be yet. I don't think I'll ever get there. I want to continually improve. If I also stop growing and think I know it all, then what I'm essentially saying is I'm extremely happy having everything I have right now, and it progressively getting worse because we're either growing or we're dying. There's no straight lines in the universe. So the actions, the work we're doing is either progressing us upwards or it's bringing us downwards. So I really think like the work is just so important. And it's also one of those things, the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing at all. And you start to open up these new paradigms, you start to open up these new ideas, and it's like, far out. I thought I dealt with that. I thought, can I just take a break? No. Like it's kind of a catch-22, isn't it? It's almost like opening the door of deep personal development is literally like opening up Pandora's box, peeling back the layers of the onion. And sometimes the unconscious mind is just so deeply protecting all these wounds and things that are in us. And it's almost like if you never even knew they existed, you might be better off because you didn't know how good it could be. But if you've opened the lid already, it's your obligation to continually unravel this and to see how deep we can go within a way that's still productive. I see some people in this space try to do such deep work, and I'm shadowing my ego and like all this crazy, like just so deep, deep, deep. I'm like, for what purpose are you doing that? Like, in fact, like the work you're doing is kind of having a negative effect because you think there's something wrong with you, so you keep trying to dig for problems. I think we should go back to our past and resurface things that we're not happy with and continually improve and change limiting beliefs and reframe old situations that we're not happy with. But then we should spend most of our times, 95% of our time, looking forward for a new future. A lot of people can get caught up in this space of trying to drive a car by looking in the rear vision mirror, wondering why they keep crashing. And they get themselves into this hole and they're like, oh, why is my life like this? Do more work that's productive. Work on what are your goals? Where's the discipline in your life? Everything's the balance. Like the feminine energy is really, I'm just gonna flow with it. I've got to try. I got to love my body, and I need a rest today, and that's amazing. And the masculine is very like, I need to be disciplined and goal driven and get shit done. And the goal is to have them integrate and to be okay with doing each of them in a nice integrated way, not just one all the time. So the work is incredible. The work is extremely important. That's why it's good to have coaches and mentors around to continually have someone to help keep you on track to make sure you're not falling off and doing crazy shit.
I'm going to put links to the Dream Out Loud podcast, especially on YouTube, here in the show notes below for people to go check out. For people that want to check out more around what you're up to in the world, brother, what's the best way for people to connect to your work?
Yeah, best way would be, my podcast, obviously. So Dream Out Loud on any platform, and yeah, YouTube, because we're videoing them all now. Or my Instagram at Morgan T Nelson. Come and hang out there. Come have fun. We put out so much content. And we've actually just created this cool little quiz. Actually, like I have these 4 pillars, these 4 laws to create your dream life, and a lot of people I see get stuck along the journey at one of these things. And I create this cool quiz where they can answer these questions. They figure out which one of my pillars they're stuck on. and then they get like a free 20-minute training video customized on that thing, and it's really cool. So we literally just created that. So maybe I can get my team to send that. We can put it in, or it's in my Instagram. That's a cool little thing they can get some extra value from as well. But that's the best places: the podcast or Instagram.
Awesome. I'll add the quiz to the show notes below. We'll make sure we get it from you for the time of this recording. Absolutely. Brother, I could totally thank you for our conversation here today, and I absolutely will. But honestly, it's, the amount of work you've put into yourself, growing yourself, your podcast, your businesses, and just really just taking that, the magnifying glass and then turning it inwards as well to achieve the outwardly worldly success that you have. It's a lifetime's worth of work that you've invested in yourself. This conversation today gets to stand on the shoulders of that. So, yeah, man, just want to thank you for you doing you being you, and being here and sharing yourself so abundantly with us here today, brother. Thank you so much.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for having me. Keep crushing it. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to its end. Obviously, you absolutely love this podcast, and I want to thank you so much for watching this all the way through. Here is another video that's perfectly curated just for you to watch as the next best video to keep your inspiration flowing, to keep you evolving, to keep you yowing. Check it out now.